I'm not, but I don't mean to be disrespectful to Eddie Howe when I say this, but we've learnt nothing from that 90 seconds, I don't think, really, have we, Razor? Because we know from past experience, from the past 7 days, and like I say, he answers the questions the way he wants to, and it's his prerogative. But he told us that Sven Botman and Joe Linton were very close and quite close, respectively, before Liverpool on Wednesday night, and then after the game came out and said, well, neither of them were close. So there isn't, I don't think we can read anything into what he's said there, can we?
Yeah, it's not clear whether Isak will play. It sounds like Wilson's all right, and the other two, well, like you say, we thought they would be involved at Anfield, but they weren't. I think Eddie Howe answers questions on injuries in his own way, and yeah, sometimes we don't always get a lot of detail or a lot of notice when it comes to whether a player will be back or whether a player will be fit. I'd say politely he likes to keep us guessing, and if we're guessing, then Newcastle's opponents probably don't have a clear idea as well. He's not the only manager to do that kind of thing and not necessarily give too much away about players' recovery from injury. Unless it's a longer term problem, then he will perhaps go into a bit more detail if someone's not on the verge of returning. And the sensitivity around the Isak issue, because he's such a special player, such a big player for Newcastle, and if they lost him before Wembley for any more games, it would be a problem. And they're keen to avoid that, which is why he says they just need to be careful. So, yeah, we can't tell you whether he'll be in the squad on Sunday. If he isn't, then I think that creates another problem, because can Callum Wilson start 2 matches in the space of a few days after so long out? I'm not sure. So then you might need to play Anthony Gordon out of position. So there'll be a knock-on effect to Isak missing the game if he does as well. But if they can get one of the other two, or both of them, Joe Linton and Botman, back, that will be really important, because they need time on the pitch before Wembley, and there are only 2 more matches before the League Cup final, starting with Brighton on Sunday and then a trip to West Ham.
John, you've been listening to all that.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? You know, I agree with Razor about Isak. You know, he's such an important player for us. My thoughts on it is, if there's any doubts at all, you don't play him. He's just too valuable to risk. You know, if he hasn't trained and he's still wary of it, or he's still conscious of it inside his head, you don't play him. Simple as that.
Yeah.
The Wilson situation, played 70 minutes at Anfield. He's only played 80 minutes in total all season prior to that. So, yeah, good point that Razor makes, as he got another game in him so quickly. And if neither of them are available, what does he do? There's been an awful lot of talk about young Asula. Played in the last round of the Cup at Birmingham. For me, Brighton are a different proposition altogether. And it wouldn't surprise me if neither of them are fit, that they do what Razor said, and that's move Gordon in central and bring Barnes in on the left-hand side.
Yeah, it probably doesn't matter in some respects, Razor, because they're unlikely to play very much together, certainly start a game together. But what Eddie Howe still hasn't got, and hasn't had for a very long time, is Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak fit at the same time.
Yeah, it's been a problem since Isak joined the club. I mean, he arrived when Wilson got injured, then Isak got a bad injury, and it seemed like whenever one was fit, the other one was injured, and that's the situation they were in the other night. Now, you're totally right. They probably wouldn't play together in a 4-4-2, although that's how Newcastle set up at Anfield. But they did that because Isak was injured, and they felt that for Callum Wilson to be up there on his own against Liverpool, given the lack of football, would have been a bit too much. So they moved Gordon inside and up front alongside Wilson, just to try to help Wilson and have a different way of playing, because when there's no Isak, they do have to do things a little bit differently. Now, they have been on the pitch together at various times. Sometimes Isak's been on the left. He has occasionally been playing off Wilson, but often that's within a game when Newcastle are chasing a goal, or sometimes when they are comfortably ahead and there's a bit more freedom to do things. But it's been a problem for Eddie Howe because they rarely seem to be fit at the same time. So when Wilson's out, he can't rest Isak. He can't rotate if one of them is injured. and there really hasn't been much opportunity for the manager to get them on the pitch together.
Yeah, it's been a big frustration because